she can introduce our guests. We've already spoken to them, established the order of which the participation is going to be, so I can take charge as Alexander Haig did, or I can defer to somebody who's already prepared. Eve, let's tell us about the program today.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming out on this blustery day. I'm Eva Calcagno, and I'm the Director of the Washington County Cooperative Library Services, which is the organization that provides public library service in Washington County. Joining me today on the program will be Peter Leonard, the Director of the Cedar Mill Community Library, Douglas Hoy, who is the Director of the Aloha Community Library Association, and Laura Orr, who is your County Law Librarian. What is WCCLS, or the Washington County Cooperative Library Services? We like to joke that cooperative is our middle name, and that's the premise under which we operate. The libraries in Washington County work together in a spirit of cooperation that extends beyond local boundaries in order to provide excellent countywide library service to all residents. It's a partnership between Washington County, 9 cities, and 2 nonprofit organizations to provide public library service to county residents. And it's a rather unique governance structure for library service in Oregon, but it's one that's been very successful for us in Washington County. And our interdependence, or our sharing, is what builds the strength in that organization. WCCLS has provided funding for public library operations and central support and community outreach programs that link together our city and community libraries for 37 years. We were established in 1976. Our funding comes from a combination of Washington County General Fund dollars and a dedicated local option levy. And some of you may remember I talked to you about the levy when it was on the ballot in 2010. Libraries also provide additional funding of local funds to supplement the funding that they get from the county. And there's a map that shows the distribution of our current member libraries. Aloha Community Library is what we call a developing library, and it's working through our admission guidelines in order to become a full member, hopefully in 2016. The central support services and outreach are provided through my office, through the county, and they include things like technology and computer support, the library catalog, delivery of materials among libraries to fill patron holds and return them to their home libraries, electronic subscriptions, summer reading programs, early literacy training, and outreach to non-English speakers, to our homebound residents, and more. A brief overview of your public library service. There are currently 15 public library locations in the county. And a public library is open at least 359 days a year. At least one of them is open. All of our member libraries are open 6 days a week or more. And for the statistical wonks out there, they were open 42,897 hours last year. We also provide mail delivery to people who can no longer use a public library or get to the public library, and we will mail materials to your home, or if you're in a residential care facility. And we have information about our outreach program in the back, in the entry room in the back. There are also 2 special libraries that are online. That includes the Oregon College of Art and Craft and Tuolumne Health Information Center. Both of those specialized collections add a wonderful dimension to the collections that are available to all county residents, and they are open to the public 5 days a week. We have 1.6 million items in the countywide collection, and those are available to you anywhere in the county. We will deliver the materials to your local library for you so they're convenient to pick up. We have about 280,000 registered patrons or library card holders now, which is just about 53% of the county's population. Last year, we also had over 4.2 million visitors to public libraries. So if you want to ask someone the value of public libraries today, I'd suggest asking one of those 4.2 million visitors what they came to use. Our checkouts topped 13 million last fiscal year, which was about a 2% increase from the previous year. The largest, or the fastest growing portion of our collection is digital materials, downloadable materials like e-books and e-audio books. That section of the collection grew 57%, use of that collection grew 57%. So that's a really strong new direction that we're heading. Eric? Trying to go down. There we go. Thank you. Since this program was supposed to talk about the libraries and what their value is now, and maybe a new digital age and our new community, evolving communities, I kind of think of it as not the library of your youth. And some of us might remember libraries fondly from when we were kids, but the libraries of today do many things that, in addition to those things, we still stock bestsellers, and we still have librarians standing by to provide expert assistance to help you answer questions, to provide reading recommendations, but we do much more than that too. And here are just a few of the many things that I can think of. We provide cultural passes for free. You can check out a day pass to one of 7 destinations around the metro area, including the Japanese Garden, for example, or the Evergreen Aviation Museum. We provide e-books, we provide audiobooks, materials in many languages, book reviews, research databases, things like genealogy, auto repair. We have language learning tools. We have computer tutorials online for free, so when you upgrade your Windows or your Office software and want to know how to use it, you can have an online tutorial to help you. We have civil service exams, SAT exams, citizenship exams are all available online to practice ahead of your test taking. We have teen programs, storytelling, classes to learn just about everything. Craft nights, book clubs, art displays, lectures, Wi-Fi, internet access, self-service checkout, free access to libraries around Oregon, and Facebook, Twitter, a mobile pack, a finger play fun videos online to learn how to teach literacy ditties to your children and grandchildren. One-on-one help with e-readers. We have 24 hours of help either online through chat or text. We do a lot of things. And as I work with the member libraries around the county, we're always looking to see how we can streamline our services so that things are faster and easier for you to use in the library, and how we can extend those services to you to try to meet you where you are. A few years ago, we surveyed some inactive patrons, that people who hadn't been into the library for 3 years. And besides the number one reason they hadn't been is that they moved out of the area, but the second most popular answer was they were too busy. We didn't have enough time, and their answer usually went something like, "Oh, it's not you, it's me. Really, I'm sorry. I would like to be there. I'm so busy with the kids or this or that." And so we continue to look for ways that we can extend service so people can access it when it's convenient for them in their homes, and make pickup and delivery of materials fast and efficient in our member libraries. And where can you find out about all of these things? You can find out about them on our website, WCCLS.org. We also have a Facebook page and Twitter feeds. You can tune in and be informed at any time. We also have a Spanish language website and a Facebook in Spanish as well, and those URLs are out there. We also have a display in the entry room, and I would encourage you to take a minute to look at some of the literature we have available. Now I think I'll turn it over to Peter Leonard, who will talk to you about the Cedar Mill Community Library. And Cedar Mill was one of the original members of WCCLS since 1976.
Yeah, thanks for having me out here, and thanks for coming on such a messy day. when we're talking about value of libraries, this is a topic that's near and dear to a lot of librarians' hearts. As a matter of fact, you go on a lot of library websites and they have library value calculators that you can plug in different things that libraries do to get an estimate of what the value is. For example, at Cedar Mill Community Library, last year we lent about 2.5 million items. So if you factor how much does an item cost, if you had to buy that, say conservatively, $10, you're talking about $25 million worth of service. Then you add things like programs, reference questions, meeting room space, and you can see you get a lot of value from the library. Our Cedar Mill's operating budget is about $3.5 million per year, so I think that's a pretty darn good return on investment. Those are all kind of tangible values, but I think there's a lot of intangible values too, that libraries help build communities and help individuals become successful. When I talk about Cedar Mill community, I talk about the unincorporated area that we serve that includes Cedar Hills and Cedar Mill, Bethany, Oak Hills. It roughly goes from Jenkins Road, north of Jenkins Road, east of 185th, out to the Multnomah County border, and then a little bit beyond the border too, because we serve people in Multnomah County with reciprocal borrowing. And about 10% of our users actually live in Multnomah County. But when we're talking about changes in the community, I think the biggest change that we can all experience is the change in the information environment. And with the advent of computers, things have really changed rapidly. But recording information and preserving information and relaying stories and information over time is what I think makes humans human. There's no other animal that does anything like that. So from the very earliest days where people would sit around a campfire and tell stories, or maybe somebody got the idea to record something on a cave, to do a cave drawing, or they figured out how to write using symbolic text onto scrolls so they could document things or write on clay tablets. There's been many changes in how people preserve information. I've been working in libraries for about 30-some years, and in my career, in that span of time, there's been an awful lot of changes. The first library I worked in, one of my jobs was to file catalog cards in a catalog drawer. Does anybody remember card catalogs? And many of us still refer to that computer, oh, we're going to the card catalog, or where's the card catalog? So, but the first library I worked in, we had 16mm films and 8mm films, LP records, 33 1/3, we even had 78. And I imagine some people still remember 78 RPMs. There were no PCs, no internet, no e-books, no Amazon. But now with computers, things have radically changed. But I think that even though things are changing, people still do some of the traditional ways of using information. We still have storytellers, we still have painters, we still have handwritten manuscripts. We have elevators today, but there's still steps. There's still movie theaters, even though people have DVD players at home. And there's still books, even though there's plenty to read on computers and with e-books. I think a common misperception people have of libraries is that they are warehouses of books. And really what they are is a way to make information accessible and available to people. And libraries are very skilled at taking that wealth of information and trying to make it easy to access, which I think the role is even more important nowadays because there's so much information that people can't get their hand on it or grasp it. So a library can actually curate the information and help people be guides to that information. About 10 years ago, there were about 50,000 books a year published in the United States. Last year, there were 3 million books published. So the growth in publishing is just astronomical. So a library can actually help you sort through that. In preparation for coming out here, I just walked through our library and looked at some of the things that people do in a typical day in our library. As Eva mentioned, they borrow books, place books on hold. A lot of people ask for professional advice from librarians. We subscribe to about 400 magazines and many newspapers, so a lot of people come in and just keep up with current events. We do browsing. We have videos and popular books. Then the library also fills a role as what sociologist Robert Putnam calls a third place. It's not work, it's not your home, but it's another neutral place in the community where people can be, they can come together. And we get a lot of people that just come in. They might use the library for tutoring. Business people might meet clients there for meetings. We have a meeting room, so homeowner associations meet there, as well as scout groups and other groups. The library recently has been doing a lot of instruction too. We've done a lot of things with computer labs, so every Thursday you can come in and get personalized instruction from volunteers how to use computers or e-books. We've done classes on oral history, digital photography, and this year we have a grant to prepare media production kits, which will teach people how to prepare videos or audio recordings or music recordings. We have high-speed internet, wireless connection. We're also a place in our community, many newcomers in our area, it's a place to connect with others, and it's also a place to provide service and give back to the community. We have about 700 volunteers in our library each year, which over the course of a year they work the equivalent of about 24 full-time staff members. And the people come in there to help the library, but they're also helping to build a stronger community, they're making friends, and it's a win-win for everybody. Some of the other services we offer, we also are a training site for the Community Transitions Program of the Beaverton School District, where kids with special needs come in and learn some basic job readiness skills. We have book club kits, so if you have a book club, you can check out a box with 10 copies of books and guides for book club leaders. We have volunteers that go out to senior residences and actually run book clubs there. We have large print books for people that have vision challenges, recorded books. We have Kindles that you can borrow from the library if you want to see what those are about. We also have a team of volunteers that goes to family daycare centers, and they visit about 60 daycare centers and bring library materials each week or each month. And they're trying to encourage younger kids to read, and that's working out very well. We also get a lot of preschools that visit our library, and we have a teen council that does a lot of program planning. So the teens are learning some leadership skills and learning how to give back to the community. And another activity we have is something called Battle of the Books, which we give training sessions for elementary and secondary school students that participate in this statewide effort in order to they compete against other schools on book knowledge. So that's just a quick summary of some of the things we do. And if you haven't used our library or the other libraries in Washington County recently, come on in and we'll take questions later, I guess.
My name is Doug Hoy, and I want to correct one thing that Eva had mentioned in the introduction. I'm not director of the Aloha Community Library. I'm the president of the board.
Director of the board.
Director, yeah. Well, you know, and it's a board of directors, so there's lots of directors, and we don't have just one. In fact, we're all volunteers, and I'll talk about the evolution of that organization this morning, along with other things. But I want to emphasize the message today is the value of public libraries, and I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of a little startup. Now, I could probably just leave this slide up and just be done, because this is really the value. This was taken the day we opened, just 59 days ago. A cute little boy who was very excited about getting one of the first books we checked out that day. And it was quite a day for us. We had several hundred people, press in attendance, dignitaries to talk about it. And it was really the culmination of a lot of work over the last year and a half that led to that day where that boy could have a really special moment. And I think the value of a public library is in this picture. You don't have to say much more, but I will. Brief history of the Aloha Community Library. We started over coffee back in January 2011. What could we do? Aloha needs a library. If you notice in Eva's presentation, the libraries are spread throughout the Washington County in a pretty evenly distributed area, with the exception of Aloha, which is an unincorporated space, no city to really spawn a library. The only way to do it is just the way Cedar Mill did it 30 years ago, by creating a nonprofit. We filed the Articles of Nonprofit Incorporation in August of that year, and then by November filled out the 1023 as a result of creating a budget, a strategic plan, etc. And by the following January this year, we were granted recognition by the IRS as a full 501c3, which helped us generate funds because we needed to fundraise and we needed a nonprofit status to help fundraise. So by the end of our fiscal year, just June of this year, we raised $30,000, which was great. That allowed us to hire a paid staff, who turns out to be a volunteer coordinator. We need lots of volunteers. 150 of them put in over 5,000 hours to help open the library, do book sales, move books, sort books, prepare the books. An amazing diversity of people and talent contributed to this. The arrows don't do it? So, some startup stats. We actually opened in the early part of the summer as a result of a grant from Beaverton Rotary Club and the Washington County Cultural Coalition that gave us the opportunity to serve the community in a unique way without even having a library open yet. And we offered a summer reading program for preschool kids, served 53 kids over 18 sessions. And that was a delight to be able to do that for those community members who would have had to go to Beaverton or Hillsborough to get that same service. As of today, we've been open 59 days and counting, 3 days a week. Very, very new. It's like a newborn. Total number of library cards, 489. And we're counting every one every day, and they're growing fast. About 1,000 books were checked out in October. Now that seems pale in comparison to the stats that both Eva and Peter talked about, but believe me, we're very excited about this. To become part of the Washington County Cooperative, we have a goal, according to the mission guidelines, of reaching about 3,300 a month. So we're about a third of the way there, and we have about 1.5 years to increase that. So we think it's possible. Our collection size is 6,218 books and media, and we are growing that every day. We also have 4 public access computers, Wi-Fi, and full internet. And it's been constantly used. We see the real need for that. So the topic was, what's the value of libraries? And who uses the public library anyway? Because with ebooks, what do you need a library anymore? You download it from Amazon, right? Well, I thought it was an interesting question too. And of course, we've been asking that question since the day we started talking about this over coffee. And I think we've been learning as we go, because all of us are newbies to the library business. So recently I did a little research and found that Bill and Melinda Gates had also been asking this question, and actually gave a grant to the Pew Research Foundation, or Pew Research Institute, to do a study of this. And so they commissioned a study to examine the reading and library usage habits of young adults ages 16 to 30. They surveyed approximately 3,000 individuals ages 16 and older in the U.S. during the months of November and December of last year. On October 22nd, about a month ago, they published the results of their survey titled Younger Americans' Reading and Library Habits. The results, 60% of Americans in that age group, 16 to 30, said that they had used a public library at least once in the past year. So obviously this is consistent. That 56% rings true to the statistics that Eva talked about with Washington County usage. This is a usage pattern throughout the U.S. There's no question libraries are appreciated today. And what are they used for? Well, for those under age 30, they use them for research, about 46%. About 38% of that age group use it for borrowing print books, audiobooks, and ebooks. And 23% found themselves borrowing newspapers, magazines, and journals. Here's some interesting demographics. So this shows by age group. The blue is in the under 30, broken out into high school, college, and post-college. And then the gray area, symbolically, is those over 30. And it's broken up into 10-year segments. And you can see that it's pretty evenly distributed. There's not really one age group, although, interestingly, across the U.S., high school is the dominant use of the public library today. I mean, I won't say dominant, but they have a higher percentage of participants than do the other age categories. And here's one, the book readers. Now, this isn't necessarily book readers of libraries, so book readers overall. If you read a book, how often do you do it, or do you do it? And they found that 72% of the high school age have read a book in the last year, which is, that's encouraging. But also that the numbers are in line with, I think, our personal experiences. But it's useful to know that we are a book reading population. And the reasons for reading can be broken out in these 4 categories. Read for work and school, and you can see that the older ages don't do that as much, but the younger ages, as expected, do. Read for pleasure, again, it's between 76 or 81%. Read to keep up with current events, and then read to research topics, all in that 75 to 80% range. And I found this one to be interesting. How many books do Americans read on average? And they've distributed this into two ways of quantifying it. One is the mean, and one is the median. So the mean is the average of those respondents in that age group that actually said they read a book and how many books they read. And the median is that point at which half of the population of that age group, has read a book, either less number of books or more. And so I think that gives you a sense of we are a reading group, and we don't just read a book. We read lots of books, 1 or 2 a month on the average. And I thought this was a good question relevant to today's discussion. How important is the public library to you and your family? So in this one, it's again broken out by age, and you can see that the highest one, interestingly enough, is that post-college age, 25 to 29, 74% said it was really important for them. And I think that's really useful to know about the library today. Is it's not just a place where the very young go or the very old go. It's really a place where we all go and we all connect together. So what about us, that local library thing? What's the value of that? And again, from an outsider's perspective, I haven't spent 30 years in the library business. I'm kind of a new guy, but just a couple of observations. We are supporting and backfilling the losses that have occurred recently in the Beaverton School District. As many of you know, the Beaverton School District made a decision similar to what Hillsborough did a few years ago, which was to cut all of their librarians and leave it to really the community to support that kind of function. And so, coincidentally, not by plan, we were opening our library just a few blocks from Aloha High School when that happened, and we have seen already an impact as a result of that. We also find that this organization has been a tremendous opportunity for grassroots expression of community building in a very amazing way. People that would not normally work together have come together to do something really important for the community. And that has been a really amazing experience for me and all those on the board. The public access computers, I think, again, individuals have not, they're coming in because they don't have it at home. The local book and media stores, for those who don't have money to purchase them, we're seeing that as well. And, excuse me, I just can't finish on. And the other thing that's really important is to have a place to meet and research and really have access to material, knowledge, as Peter said, and really to build a community living room. We know we're just a little library today, but we know that there's potential in Aloha to get bigger, a lot bigger, and we know that that's the direction we're going to go. So I'll leave you with one more slide, and it's a picture of the front of our little storefront, little 1,000 square foot space, where we have our 6,000 volumes. And you know, our logo that we came up with early on in the formation of the organization was we honor our past, showcase the present, and inspire the future. And I hope that's done for you today. Thank you.
Us small people provide the lighter moment of serious meetings like this. And it's blinding. It's not obscure. Can everybody hear me? I'm saying I can hear myself. I have to remember not to shout as if I was on the campaign trail. I never did understand why they all had to shout. They have enough money for good microphones. Obviously, if we can do it, they can do it. My name is Laura Orr, which does not show up on there, and I am your county law librarian. I know that a lot of you probably don't know you have a county law library, let alone a professional law librarian in your midst, but you do. And the Oregon lawyers, especially your Washington County lawyers, also know that they have a county law library and they use us a lot, which is very nice. Our law library, I should say, maybe back up and talk about myself. I came up through the ranks as an academic law librarian. I went to law school and library school in the 1980s. And halfway through law school, I thought, I don't want to do this. And so I thought I'll head off to library school, and the rest sort of is history. I went into academic law libraries and went abroad for a year to work in a couple of law libraries in England, and then started traveling around a little bit more and ended up out here in Oregon and became the first law librarian after Anne Carlin, who had built this extraordinary law library, public law library. So this was my first real public law library job, and it's been a wonderful learning experience and a lot of fun. Some of our lawyers would like to say that we have the best county law library in the state, and they also like to say we are the best kept secret in the state and maybe even in the county. I'm not so sure that we're a best kept secret anymore. You'll see later on in the program how many things we're doing, and a lot of people all over the state, in fact all over the country, know what we're doing now. But I do think we're pretty special. So those lawyers have a lot to say, and they're very proud of their law library and give us a lot of support. So here I am, your county law librarian, and thank you very much for the invitation to speak. I've been a law librarian, as I mentioned, for a very long time, and I could spend the next 8-9 minutes, I could spend the next 90 minutes telling you sad stories, funny stories, gossipy stories about some politicians, local and not so local, and just some wonderful stories about extraordinary people. But I think I'll save those for the end if you have any questions. I'm also not planning to talk about library funding, Oregon County Law Library funding, or threats to funding in the next legislative session. Those are issues left for later, and if you have any questions about those, feel free to contact me directly. I brought some business cards for me and for the law library, And I also brought some some federal US constitutions, which fits nicely into a pocket constitution. And everybody should carry one. Every law librarian does. So you might want one. So what I think I'm going to do is describe what we do. Public and private law librarians are like librarians anywhere. We're keepers and finders of information. And in our case, in the law librarian's case, that information is legal and law-related. As public law librarians in a public law library, which is not so much a circulating library as a research library, and we are open to the public. So as public law librarians, we serve attorneys, judges, lawyers, and anyone else who wants to research the law. And it is a publicly funded library, and there are lots of business models for that. So I could go on at great length about that too, but we won't. But there is one respect in which we're not at all like public librarians. And actually, we're probably more like a different type of public servant. Say firefighters, police, the unemployment office, FEMA, is another example. That is, you won't call upon us until you really need us. Very few people other than lawyers visit their law library every day. And that is the case. So that's one of the reasons why we're a little bit hidden. But you can use what we all know and call the Google. So you can find us that way. So just use the Google. And if you want to find us, you could just Google Washington County Law Library. Make sure you add the word Oregon, because there are lots of other Washington County law libraries in the country, and we all exchange phone calls. I have fielded them from Minnesota to Florida, and they have the same, they've gotten our calls too. So the other thing I want to correct about the law and about what people find online is that you may also be told that it's all online, and that all law is online, and that it's free and easy to find and understand. Do not trust anybody who tells you that. They either have their own lawyer on speed dial, or they have made some really big mistakes that I read about in the newspaper every day, and I circle with a big red pen because I could have advised them better than maybe their own advisors advised them, that it is not that easy. The law is not easy. There is an awful lot of law online, and maybe there's an awful lot of stuff online generally, maybe more than we want. But unless you're very wealthy or work in a law firm with its own law librarian, then the fact is no, not all law is online. It is not free, and it is not easy to find, and it definitely is not easy to understand. So the problem is that people seem to think that the internet has changed the world, and it has in many ways. However, there are other things that have changed much more than the internet. So I always put it in terms of how far we've come in the law since the 10 Commandments. It doesn't fit on 2 tablets anymore. And I always think Gutenberg has a lot to answer for. So ever since they started publishing the law, it's just been downhill, or libraries have gotten bigger and bigger. So books and databases in the largest of law libraries around the country number in the millions, tens of millions, if you look at the Law Library of Congress, if you look at Harvard and Yale. But the most complete and the most current explication of the law either is not online or is between very expensive firewalls. So please don't try and do your own legal research without talking to a law librarian or a lawyer. And then there's this, which I always use because a fellow county law librarian tells this to his students when he teaches them business law. He says, if you read only what is written in statutes, cases, and constitutions, you will be absolutely wrong about what the law is. So try, in fact, to research these deceptively simple questions yourself. And I have a few questions, you'll see a few more. And then after you've tried that online or however else on your own, ask a law librarian for research assistance and see what happens. And then after that, ask a lawyer, and you're going to see how much you missed. So one of their these are some fairly frequently asked questions. Is there a form to remove a personal representative during probate? Sounds pretty straightforward, as does the next one. How do I find the right power of attorney form? How do I get custody or guardianship of my grandchild? Can I leave my 9-year-old home alone? Is it me? It's you. Oh, this one. These look like simple questions, but they're not. Trust me, they are not. I could tell you a lot of very sad stories from people who thought these were simple questions and thought they could take care of it themselves. So these are some other, I'm going to show you a few other questions too. You can just go skilling through these. Yeah, you can just take a quick look at them. We actually have all of these questions and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more at our website. We keep track. You can actually leave it. Yeah. So what do we do for you? What do we in county law libraries do for you? What do I, as your law library director, do? One is, we actually save you money. Believe it or not, if you hire a lawyer, we end up providing services to that lawyer that affects the bill you get in the mail. If lawyers use our services, your bill might actually be a whole lot lower than it would be. If we can save that lawyer 3 or 4 hours of research time, you've suddenly saved hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So by centralizing the resources, research resources, we save individual lawyers the expense of a research tool they might need only a couple times a year. The vast majority of Oregon attorneys are solo or small law firm practitioners, or what I call affordable lawyers. So through our county law library, our lawyers can check out expensive course materials that they need for self-study, so they are better lawyers for you, and they need them for continuing legal education requirements. They also have expenses to databases, that we have expensive databases, to our legal research expertise, and to our networks. Law librarians have a lot of national, local, state, and national networks. These are conference rooms. Again, we're saving you money. So your lawyer bills would be a lot higher without these centralized services. Public law libraries also level the playing field for the self-represented litigant, the $120 an hour solo attorney, and the $500 an hour attorney who is an in-house law librarian. We also, like the public libraries, serve the homebound, disabled, those without computer access, veterans, and many others who don't know about the social programs and nonprofits that can assist them with their legal problems. We provide reference and referral services in the law library and on the phone, via email, and through the state library's LNet. There's a statewide virtual reference service. We also service the Cassandras many times for a lot of people, what I can also call preventive lawyering. A lot of people contact us because they think it's a simple process. It's a simple thing to do to respond to a debt collector's letter, that it's simple to respond to a summons. And we get to tell them that it's not. They need to do some work. We also serve students of the law, and whether they're in grade 5 or in their 5th childhood, we're a great place to learn about the law. So keep in mind also that no other public library or organization in the state does what your public law libraries do. They don't have the research resources or the expertise, and they certainly don't have the primary mission that we have, which is to serve the bar and the public. So how do we manage to do these things? We have a staff in my law library of 2.65 FTE. So I'm the law library director. I have a full-time assistant law librarian and a part-time library assistant. But we manage a lot. We're open 45 hours of the week to the public, and we work fast and hard, and we use the power of leverage, human and digital. So what I'm going to show you here is we have this is fun. This is our law library's homepage, our county law library homepage. This is a gateway to an enormous amount of information that's taken years to compile. There are research guides, there are links, there are multiple pages, and we do a lot of work to keep these links open. between this and, doesn't show up too well here, we have a legal research blog that I started in 2005. Between the blog and our website, we probably get over 10,000 page view hits every month. Oh, I better hurry along here. And last, one of the things that we're doing now, and those of you who use the web a lot know that these are deceptively simple things, these home pages, and the work that's involved with them. But I worked with the Clackamas County Law Librarian to create a real Oregon legal research gateway. So it's going to turn that blog into a website and blog, and then we're going to really serve everybody in the state. So we're looking forward to that initiative. So whether you want to know how to compile a legislative history or prepare for a small claims case, you have a law library you can call upon. And as I said, I have business cards that I have available, or you can just Google us or call your public library. We work with our public librarians to make sure they know that we exist. Thank you.
This is a time for questions, and questions are open to forum members only. I know when I started with the forum, Cedar Mill Library was just getting started. We wondered how they could possibly achieve any level of momentum, and obviously they have. Again, forum members, and perhaps the librarians would want to situate themselves somewhere up here so they're ready to accessible with questions. We'll move some chairs around, but we've got a lot of time. We've got 14, 15 minutes, so fire away.
I'm Bill Kroger, a forum member. First of all, thanks for coming out on such a wet and blustery day. With all the electronics available, Kindle and things like this, I was just wondering what the future of the printed book is.
I don't know that I can answer that question. I think print will be around for many years to come. As Peter noted the statistics, the number of books published, and those are print books published, actually increased this year over last year, so it continues to increase. I think how that happens will change over time, and there are opportunities for self-publishing that are becoming very affordable and very local. You can print on demand, make your own book. So the opportunities for publishing are expanding at the same time that electronic versions of things are also expanding. So it's an interesting phenomenon to watch, and I don't know that, I want to observe it. I don't know that anyone can control it. You want to add to that?
Oh, that's pretty hip. Yeah, it's something everybody's paying attention to.
Yeah, the Pew Research article I mentioned talks about ebooks a lot, and so check it out if you want to see me afterwards. I can give you that reference. But I think some have suggested that printed books, as we know it today, may be gone within 10 years. But the need for knowledge will not go away. It's just increasing. So what a book is today will change. I think the printed books we have at home and in our libraries today will not go away. They will not be burned like Bradbury suggests in Fahrenheit 451. But in fact, they will become part of our legacy, and we will continue to cherish them like many things of antiquity. But as we migrate into what will be the newest thing, which today seems like a tablet, tomorrow will be something else.
I'm Ted Welch, member of the forum. I want to say that today's session has been most informative, and I want to thank you all for lending your voices to this dialogue. I do have a question, and I want to direct it to at least three of you. Ms. Orr has already told us not to think about fundraising, but to me, that's the bear in the, or the elephant in the reading room. How do we handle the issue of funding with all the implications for traditional libraries and electronic libraries? And I'm wondering if any of you have developed a sense of funding sources in terms of the profile of giving or non-giving. In other words, what excites donors about a library venture such as Doug Hoy talks about? Do they want to give money to old print, or do they want to give money to new media? I'd like to know what kind of profile you have sensed in your fundraising activities.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. There's actually been a lot of research about this too, about how people support libraries. And a lot of times, people that aren't even library users want to support libraries because they believe in the idea of libraries. And at least in Cedar Mill, we raise a fair amount of our budget through our resale shop and through individual giving. And the vast majority of donors make their gifts with no restrictions on them. They want to have the proceeds go to whatever the library thinks is most in need. But I think many people feel very passionate about what libraries can do for children, especially teaching children how to read and getting them engaged with books. So I think that will be a continuing appeal for donors.
I have to say I'm new to this game, so I'm not by any means an expert, and I'm learning all the time. But what I've observed in individuals that have contributed to our short, brief history is when we present a mission that's compelling and affects the community, it's easy to pull out your wallet and contribute because you see the impact. And I think that's been really helpful to us in our fundraising so far. We really haven't, it's not been a hard thing to raise $30,000 in a few months. We've increased our budget for this coming year with that anticipation that it will be easier now that we're open. The other sources of funds that libraries in our county use are Amazon book sales. Libraries are a common place to donate their books, used books. And libraries have figured out this is a revenue source. And because it's a free asset, they can turn around and sell that asset with sometimes just volunteer help on Amazon, and can make quite a profit. And of course, book sales, retail book sales are a very common occupation by libraries as well as a fundraising source. So there are lots of ways of generating funds to help support the library today, in addition to, of course, the tax dollars we're getting from the levy.
This is a different form of fundraising, but about 63% of the money spent to operate public libraries in this county comes through county tax dollars, property tax dollars. So if you want to think of your property taxes as a fundraising donation, that you can do that. But I think that's the basis of that, and the Board of Commissioners have time and again said public library service is a basic county-wide function, that every county resident should have access to a public library, and it's worth it. It's as important as public safety, as safe roads, and health and human services, that it's essential function to the well-being of our community and the livability of our community. So the majority of funds are tax dollars. In addition to that, many of our cities, like the city of Beaverton, Hillsborough, they also contribute funding to their local library for operations, and they contribute a huge amount to bricks and mortar. The county does not fund library buildings. That's up to the local decision. So the city of Beaverton or Hillsborough or Tigard or Forest Grove has to figure out how they're going to pay for that themselves. We'll contribute to the operating costs, but the building part is a local obligation. And it's a local bootstrapping in the case of the nonprofit libraries like Cedar Mill and Garden Home and Aloha, to figure out how to do that. And they do that through various partnerships, in some cases with mall owners or business owners who provide them space. Garden Home is in the Tualatin Hills Park and Rec District, so they have a partnership there too. So it's a whole community support for that library function.
Chris Leslie, forum member. This is a question mainly on history of the libraries and the Sumerian log. What is the codes of Chinese codes? Do you have any law codes for them or history of libraries in China? or anywhere else that bring us to the present, because that's so important. The Alexander Library that was destroyed is the greatest loss of the Western civilization, but it's still, are there anything, any places or anything that you can say where you have valuable texts that are being stolen from the public libraries? Things like this that you have to safeguard, and how important it is overall for showing that there were laws and libraries long before the Bible. Please.
In Washington County, I would say we don't have those important documents. We do have, many of our public libraries do have special collections, which are often can be unique historical record of that community. And I'm thinking of Tigard Public Library, for example, which has a history room, and they have materials that are relevant to the history of that library. Cedar Mill has done a gathering of oral histories for folks in the Cedar Mill area, and are preserving that, so that oral tradition and that oral story gets recorded and preserved. Thousands, tens of thousands of libraries around the world participate in a shared library catalog called OCLC, which is a way to find out, you can find out where those things are stored. They're quite often in places like the Library of Congress, or Harvard, or Yale, or the University of Texas, or Berkeley, have special collections that are devoted just to preserving those rare and unique materials and keeping them protected environmentally and security-wise, so that they're there forever. And intellectually preserved, correct.
John Hutzler, foreign member. I want to ask whether the County Law Library is a part of the Cooperative Library Service, and if not, why not?
I was going to address this, but John raised the finger. Exactly. No, the short answer is no, we're not. We're different statutorily, we're different, our funding is different. We are not a public library in that sense. But we're great partners, and that could change. So, but for now, we're not.
Sorry, would that require legislative change?
Yes, I believe, and county. We worked, well, yes, we do work together a lot, and I've actually arranged a few years ago to pay for a database that the WCCLS has made available.
So all
right.
the public has access to
Right.
the sheet things.
Right, and that's been just wonderful. That's been just great. And then there sort of goes back to the other, funding libraries is it's just sort of a work in progress, and that goes for public law libraries too. Public law libraries in Oregon were funded pretty much the same way from the 1920s up till 2011, and it's changed. And that's not a bad thing. Law libraries have changed, and that opens up some real options for us, and I actually wish things would move a little faster, but that's me.
Harry Bodine, foreign member. We have the diversity of population demographics in this county have changed a lot. What do we do? What do we have in the way of material for Chinese, Urdu, you name
The public libraries do collect a significant amount of materials in non-English languages, and you might remember on the last slide I showed there was a book cover from a Harry Potter book. That was a Harry Potter book in Arabic. And we have, I think, 7 or 8 Harry Potter in 7 or 8 different languages, as an example. So we do print materials, electronic databases, language learning tools, so you can learn a foreign language, and also if you want to brush up on your English, you can do that online as well.
As always, we might stick around and ask some questions, but we're done. main program, Washington County Public Affairs Forum, meets from 11:45 till 1 o'clock at Spaghetti Factory in Tannis Morning in Hillsborough. Thank you very much. And now for the non-televised portion. How many people live within a 15-minute drive of this? Raise your hand of the Spaghetti Factory within 15 minutes. How many live more than 15 minutes? Okay. How many people found that the Beaverton Elks was a convenient locale? Okay. Very good. We're going to have a board meeting immediately following this meeting, and it'll be as long or as short as the issues require. But thank you for your time, and the board will be going about its business here shortly. Thank you.
Good job, sir.